Hey crafty friends, welcome back to another card making video. This is of course my 10 cards 1 kit video featuring the Love From Lizi June card kit. I feel like I say this every single month, but I can't believe it's June already. This year is flying by. So let's dig in and I'll take you through the process of making these 10 cards. The products that I've used are in the description below as always, so do check out those links if you're interested in anything that you see on the screen. Okay, so I used a lot of the journaling cards for my card making this month. I had got them as part of the add-ons for the kit. I believe there are some still in stock, so if you didn't get your hands on the kit and you can still get your hands on the journaling cards, you could definitely recreate some of these cards here. And I used one of those journaling cards here with some of the background paper that was included in the kit, and then I'm using some of the specialty just to add that pearlized pink border around this piece. I decided I wanted to add some detail to the bottom section, so again I'm using some of the washi tape, which was an add-on, and I'm just laying that across as a little strip, and it's a beautiful kind of like a night sky, or like a, not quite a galaxy because it is just kind of black and white, but it's got that kind of night sky feel to it with stars. So then I'm adding some tape onto the back of this, and this is one of the things that I like to do if I'm going to be attaching ribbon. So with these skinny ribbons, I like to apply tape onto the back of my card panel, and then I lay the ribbon into that adhesive so it will stick down in place and hold it on the back of my card. You can go in and add a little bit of extra glue onto the front if you want to make sure it's kind of stuck down really flat. And then I'm grabbing some multi-medium in the matte finish. This is just a adhesive that will dry completely matte, so if any of it kind of squeezes out the sides, it won't have that like shiny finish to it. And I tied a bow. I saved you the trouble of watching me tie a bow. It is definitely easier with these skinny ribbons, but it still takes me a little while, so I tied a small bow and then just glued that on top. And again, that's just a little trick. Rather than wrapping the ribbon round and trying to tie the bow, I'll just go ahead and tie it separately and glue it in place. So here I've got the peel-offs. These are the sway. So that pause was me trying to remember the proper name. I tend to refer to them as the Wibbly Woos, and they are stunning. They've got a really nice kind of gold edge to them, and they're a beautiful pink colour. So here I've grabbed one of the stamps. I do have the stamp set from the kit and also the add-on stamp set, so you'll see me use stamps from each of those. And I applied some masking tape before I inked the sentiment up, and that's because I just wanted the word hello. If you do this, make sure you peel off the masking tape before you press your stamp down. I've definitely made that mistake before, but if you do it this way, then you will only get the hello stamped. And then I can go ahead and pour my Love From Lizi Golden Crown embossing powder. I used this on a couple of my cards this month. I felt like it worked really well with these colours. And then I heat set this piece. So I could have finished this here, but I wanted to add a little bit more detail and dimension to this. So I grabbed some of these little star pieces and I'm adding adhesive just in the center, and then I'm kind of fluffing up the outside petals. And it just looks really nice to have that extra dimension. You could just go ahead and glue everything down flat, but I felt like these two flowers with their kind of different shapes to them and a ton of dimension and lift off the base of the card looked really pretty. So once I've finished fussing with that, that is card number 1 all finished. And moving in to card 2. So I went ahead and did some die cutting off screen. I used the swan and also the reeds and the lily. And then I grabbed this journaling card here that has, it sort of looked like water to me, and I wanted to create a pond. So I've just traced a wobbly kind of oval-like shape that I'm going to use as my pond, and I'll go ahead and cut along those lines just so I have an area for the swan to sit on. Then I'm grabbing one of my card bases. All of my card bases were made by cutting the cardstock included in the kit in half and folding it in half, and I actually made everything a side folding card for this month. So that's a little different to how I usually do them. They're usually top folding, but I went ahead with side folding this time. So then I'm sticking the pattern paper down and this fully covers up this card, and then I'll add my little pool area, my little lake for my swan to sit in. And then I have the kind of bush reed pieces here, and you'll see that I switch from using my ATG tape runner to using my Lawn Fawn adhesive. That's just because I wanted to use a wet adhesive that I could have kind of precision of just exactly where I put everything. So I just add those teeny tiny dots all over this piece, and then I'll piece them together and tuck them in behind the pond. I like to create cards in this way that have kind of a scene feel to them, so they kind of tell a story, or they have like almost like a postcard type effect, so it's a little scene. I like to make a scene. So I'll kind of like to piece things together and then leave it blank, so this one won't actually have a sentiment. But I think it's nice sometimes to have some cards in your stash like this that don't have a sentiment on them yet, so you could go ahead and add the appropriate sentiment either on the outside or on the inside for when you need a card last minute. This one for me I think would work for a couple different occasions, similar to several other cards in this kit. They have a almost like a wedding feel to them perhaps, or they could definitely be more of a sympathy, and some of the stamps that were recommended as an add-on this month definitely lean more into the sympathy side of things, so I think it's really nice to have those on hand. Nobody wants to have to use them, but unfortunately those occasions do pop up and you're not going to be feeling particularly creative if you or a friend or a family member are going through a loss and you have a need for a sympathy card. So I think unfortunately it is good to have these on hand. It's a fact of life, I guess. So I'm going ahead and cutting down or gluing down the lily pad piece, and I did die cut the swan twice so I could have the heart in a coordinating colour, and I used the pink specialty, the kind of pearlized white specialty, and the black for this piece. And then I'm just finishing it off with some of this heart washi tape. You'll see I kind of pulled a whole bunch of it off the roll, and I wanted to make sure that the hearts lined up just where I wanted them along the sides. So I kind of figured out exactly where I wanted that and then trimmed off any of the excess. So moving into card 3, I wanted to have this journaling card be the focal point, and it's such a simple card design, just using some patterned paper and this journaling card piece, that I thought to add a little bit of extra interest I would add dimension to this. So I've gone ahead and used my ATG, which is just a double-sided tape dispenser, and I've stuck that down onto some inexpensive craft foam. You can definitely go ahead and use a whole bunch of foam squares if that's what you have on hand, or foam tape, but I find that if you're gluing down a large piece like this and you want some nice flat even dimension, this is definitely the best way to go. So once I'd trimmed off any of the excess, again just to add a little something different, so it's not just one piece stuck on top of another piece with some foam behind it, I grabbed my corner chomper and just rounded the corners. I decided to round all 4 corners on this piece. I did consider going ahead and rounding the corners on this background panel that I'm attaching it to, and then I could have also rounded the corners of the card just to keep everything consistent, but I decided just to have that panel in the center with the rounded corners. So then I'll go ahead and add some tape all over my card base. I'm of course using a cream card base this time, so it kind of coordinates with the colors on the outside when you open the piece up. And then I've sped you up just a little bit because here I'm just using my craft knife to help me pick up some of these adhesive gems from the kit. I started off with 1 in each of the 4 corners and quickly decided that I wanted to have 3 in each of the corners because I felt it looked a little bit nicer, and who doesn't love a little extra sparkle? So because I'd got carried away with the sparkle and the dimension, I couldn't stop with just the gems, so I decided also to grab some glossy accents. This product, when you add it onto your projects, goes on kind of milky, but it does dry completely clear and with some added dimension. So I'm just applying that to each of the 3 hearts, and then I'll leave that to dry, and that is this card finished also. So moving into card 4, I'm doing some more die cutting, and I grabbed some circle dies from my stash. This is a large and small stitched circle set. There's a bit of a tongue twister from Fawn, and I'm using the smaller one to cut 2 of these shapes, and then I'll use the larger one to cut from that patterned paper that's left in the background there. And I actually used a card sketch for this design, and that's something that I like to do if I get a little bit stuck, or if I've made a card in the past and I want to recreate it but mix up some of the elements. I'll maybe use a similar layout and just switch things around a little bit. And I think it's a really great way to help kind of keep you inspired, and just to kind of figure out how to use your pieces. Sometimes when we're looking at our kits, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and just having a layout or a design in mind or a technique can definitely help get the creative juices flowing. So I went ahead and die cut out the sentiment. This is the "You Are Loved" sentiment, and it fit just perfectly inside this circle, and I wanted to back it on that larger piece, so that was why I had the larger one cut from the earlier die cutting. So then I grabbed a piece of pattern paper that I've cut down to fit my card base, and I'm just kind of dry fitting everything, just seeing how it looks on the card, figuring out the placement of everything. And it looked a little plain, so I wanted to add something else just to help separate the circle images from the background. So I grabbed some of the washi tape, and I'm going to go ahead and apply a strip. I'm just using the lines on my craft mat just to help me with my placement. And then I'll go ahead and add a vertical line as well. I'm just figuring out exactly where I want that, and then I'll tuck those edges behind this panel just so they're out the way. I could trim them off, but because I haven't stuck this down yet, it's just a little easier to just tuck them away, and because it's washi tape, it doesn't add too much bulk at all. So I've sped you up just while I lay down these peel-offs. These are some of the add-on peel-offs, and I lay the really skinny sway peel-offs all along the edges of the washi tape, again just to add some separation from the background piece to these pieces and just help it kind of pop. So now I'm adding some glue onto the back of all of these circles. You could definitely add some dimension to this piece as well, but I decided to keep it fairly simple and just to go ahead and stick these down flat to the card. I'm figuring out just exactly where I want them, and then I'll press those down in place. So then the exact same thing for this final piece. It would have been nice perhaps again to add some dimension, but I was happy with everything that was going on with this piece, so I decided to stick it down flat. And then I'll turn the whole panel over and add some adhesive to stick it down to my card base, and that will be this card finished. So moving into card 5, I've grabbed my Misty because I'm going to be doing a lot of stamping and also repeat stamping. I have 2 ink pads that I'm using for this card, but I wanted more than 2 shades of ink. So I went ahead and stamped the first Hugs and Kisses in my lighter shade, but I stamped down twice. So this gives me kind of a double intensity of that colour. Then I moved my cardstock down until I had the placement exactly where I wanted it, and then I stamped the Hugs and Kisses in my lightest ink colour just once. And then I'm moving everything up so I can get a third stamping, and this time I'm using my darker colour. So you'll see that I only stamped this down once, but it is already darker than the original. And then I'm going to move it up again and stamp the darker image twice. So of course I get a double intensity of this colour. So at this point I realised that I needed one more stamping at the top of the card, but I'd already used my lightest colour and stamped once. So I went ahead and cleaned my stamp, inked it up with the lightest ink colour and stamped it off once onto the scratch paper in the background, and then I stamped again without re-inking. And that allowed me to get a second generation stamping, so it would be lighter than if I stamped my ink just the once. So I hope that makes sense, and it's a great tip to help you stretch your supplies and get some additional shades of the ink pads that you already have. Then I grabbed my sway peel-offs and I used them to outline my stamping, and I had the sways kind of pointing out from the stamping, and then at the edges of the cards I used the same thickness of the sways, but this time I had the sway pointing in towards the card, so it gave these really nice kind of scalloped edge borders. So you could definitely leave the card as is, and I think it would be really pretty. Of course, you would have to glue it to a card base, which is what I'm doing here, because at the moment it is just a white panel. I went ahead and glued that down to a white card base. You could definitely stamp directly on your card base as well, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to trim this piece down when I started stamping. So you could leave it as is, but I decided to grab some more of my glue, and of course I've sped you up here, and I'm just picking out the various colours of sequins that I want. I'm using various different colours and sizes, and I also added in a couple Nuvo drops as well. So I sped through that so you didn't have to watch for too long, but that is card 5 finished. For card 6, I've grabbed a scalloped edge border die, and I'm using this particular piece of cardstock. I love the stripes on this. It's so kind of basic and simple, but there's something about it that really kind of jumped out at me, and I definitely knew I wanted to use this on one of my cards. I grabbed a couple of those journaling pieces and trimmed them down so they would be small enough that I could fit 3 of those onto this background piece, leaving an edge. And I also grabbed a scrap of one of the papers I'd used previously and die cut a banner, and I also have a strip of one of the earlier papers as well. The papers that were included in this month's kit are a little bit larger, so you do have quite a lot of these leftover pieces that you can cut up or stick down as banner pieces, and it works really well to stretch your supplies and get a couple extra cards from everything. I mean, I don't know if you're part of the Love From Lizi Facebook group. If not, there will be a link in the description below. But some of the ladies on there, the number of cards that they create each month from their kits is phenomenal. I usually stick to the 10. Sometimes I carry on and make a few more, and they're not included in my video, but some of the cards that people make on there and share are absolutely beautiful. I definitely recommend checking that out for some inspiration. Okay, so I'm going ahead and sticking these pieces down just in a column with a small gap between each of them. Again, I didn't want to kind of cover up too much of the background paper because I really liked it. A lot of it does end up covered up on this particular card, but you can see just enough of those stripes that I'm still happy. So I stuck down that banner piece there, or that kind of rectangular piece as the background to my banner, and then I'll go ahead and stick down this banner of hearts. I felt like there was something missing at this point, so I grabbed my sticker sheet and I pulled out one of the heart pieces, this lovely little kind of polka dot heart with some flowers, and these stickers have got a really nice thickness to them. They're not bulky, but they're not at all flimsy, which I really like. And then it's just off camera here, the piece that I'm picking, or it may actually be just at the bottom. I'm thinking about it here, you'll see if I grab it. Oh, I tell a lie. So I grabbed this banner piece first and stuck this at the top, so I've got kind of a double banner going on. And then I grabbed one of the pieces from the bottom. It's almost like a file marker tab, but I stuck that down and then just trimmed away the excess so it would fit onto this rectangular strip. So then I'll grab my black card base and go ahead and stick everything down, just kind of hovering above my card, praying I get my alignment straight. At this point, I don't want to mess it up and stick anything down in the wrong place. And once I'm happy, just press everything down, and that is card 6 finished. So moving in to card 7, I again did some die cutting. This time I die cut this beautiful delicate swan. I did find that I had to use my larger die cut machine. My mini just wasn't quite strong enough to cut through, although to be fair I don't think I tried with a shim. So I did use my larger die cut machine with a metal shim and it cut perfectly. And I went ahead and stuck it down onto the pink specialty cardstock and then trimmed around the edges. Then I grabbed a white card base and did some ink blending. I just used some Distress Oxide and blended a kind of delicate peachy pink circle. And then I stuck down one of the doilies with some of the edges hanging off the side of my card, and then added the swan on top. I think this swan is so beautiful. It was so very delicate. I felt like it needed just a little something behind it to help it pop off the card base. Obviously, if I wasn't using a white card base, it would pop a little better all on its own, but I wanted to use it with this white card base. So then I'll go ahead and trim off the excess of my doily, and I'm actually going to use that area for my stamping. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend stamping on this piece, it is kind of textured, so if you are going to do this, having a stamp positioner so you can stamp multiple times is definitely recommended. But I was using an ink block here and it did work okay, but the ink that I was using is a really juicy ink that is great for sentiments, so I was fairly confident it would work well. So I have the Together Forever, and then I'm adding just a delicate detail of a couple of these Nuvo drops in the top right hand corner and the bottom left hand corner. Just 3 little drops, progressively getting smaller. And that card is finished. I think it's a great one to have on hand for those last minute kind of anniversary or wedding type cards that are needed. I don't think this one will stick around for long. Okay, card 8. I wanted to use this Love You piece, and I wanted to use it with this colour card base because I felt like they paired together really, really well. And I grabbed a couple extra journaling cards and offcut pieces and just lay them down on the card base exactly where I would want them. And then I thought, oh, I need to get adhesive behind all of this. So I actually grabbed some masking tape and lay that over all 3 of the pieces so they would temporarily be stuck together as one. And then I started adding adhesive to that, and you'll notice I kind of flick some of the pieces behind, and that's just so I can get my tape all over this piece. So there would be adhesive kind of where everything overlaps to make sure that there weren't any parts of my card that would kind of flap around and not be stuck down perfectly. So you'll see I added the adhesive and then folded it back over so it would stick to itself. I hope that makes sense. You'll see here, so I've added the adhesive, then I open it back up and it sticks to itself, and then just cover what is remaining with adhesive. And now I have this nice cohesive piece that will stick down perfectly. The way that I trim these pieces, there is a small border of the card base poking all around the outside edge like a little frame, and I think it just kind of adds a little something to this. I think it looks really nice. So now I'll go ahead and grab another one of my die cuts, this beautiful swan in the floral wreath. And then each of the centers of the flowers were begging for some shine. So I added a teeny tiny Nuvo drop onto the center of each of these. I think they are so delicate that that little tiny Nuvo drop is just enough to add that extra something something to it. So you could definitely leave this card as is, but of course I couldn't help myself. I had some extra peel-offs on my desk, and so I grabbed those. These are the beautiful kind of clear, lemony, iridescent-y kind of colour. I'll have them linked in the description below. And I just lay those down where the different patterned papers or journaling cards met, so there was some extra detail there. Okay, card 9. I wanted to use some more of my washi tape. I really enjoyed using it on the cards so far, so I decided to grab 2 of the washi tapes and to create a custom patterned paper. I still had a ton of patterned paper left, so you definitely don't need to do this, but it was what I felt like doing at the time. I was enjoying using the washi tape, particularly the heart washi tape. I love those kind of foiled heart pieces. So I went ahead and laid them down on a scrap piece of white cardstock. And I did that kind of 3/4 of the way along this piece and then tucked all of those edges away. And then I'll grab my trimmer and just line up the edge of the last piece of washi tape with the cut guide and just go ahead and trim that off. I wanted to be able to glue this piece to a cream card base, and that is the cream card base from the cardstock that came in the kit. And then I'll use my Versamark to stamp down one of the add-on sentiments. I believe this came from the add-on stamp set. And then I'm going to go ahead and use that same Golden Crown embossing powder that I used earlier, just pouring that all over the base. I did of course prep this cardstock with the anti-static powder tool. I do that whenever I'm heat embossing, just to make sure that everything doesn't stick where I don't want it to. And then I'm using my heat gun to melt that powder till it gets beautiful and shiny. So I'll go ahead and add some tape to the back of my washi tape panel that I created and go ahead and stick that down, and that will be this card finished. Super easy, super quick, so simple to recreate, but I think it looks really beautiful. So card 10, we are down to the final card, and I'm grabbing the other washi tape. As I say, it was on my desk and I was really enjoying using it, so it is on quite a few of my cards. And again, just using the grid line on my mat to get a nice straight line. I'm terrible at sticking things down straight without the help of a guide, so I often tend to use the background of my mat. Here I've grabbed one of the stickers. This is kind of a border sticker, and I mean, I was finding it too difficult to stick it down straight in the orientation that it was in, so I turned the card around and I'm just overlapping this with the washi tape slightly, so the washi tape is more of kind of a feature kind of peeking out rather than it being two pieces next to each other. And then I will trim off the excess. Now I knew I wanted to use this journaling card and I was trying to figure out which sentiment to use. I ended up going with the With Love sentiment, and I gold heat embossed that using the exact same embossing powder that we've just used on the last card, so I did cut that out because you've just seen me go through this process, so I'm pretty sure it's fresh in your mind. Oh, and I lied, I did not use the love you sentiment at all. I used the love you to the moon and back. So once that cooled down, I went ahead and added some adhesive, again just using my tape runner. I tend to just use whatever's handy on my desk. I'm not overly particular. There are certain things that I want a dry adhesive, certain things that I want a wet adhesive, but other than that I'll grab what is nearest to me, and if my ATG needs refilling I'll grab something else, especially if I'm mid-flow of my card making. So I'll go ahead and stick that down just off to one side in the same way that the heart is kind of cut off to one side, and I've got that washi tape and that sticker in the background for a little bit more interest. I'll go ahead and add some tape onto the back of this piece and then glue it down to my card base, and that will be the 10th card finished. So just while I'm finishing up, a little bit more about the kits. The sneak peeks for next month's kit will actually begin on the 12th. They always begin on the 12th, that's not a surprise. So if you don't follow Love From Lizi on Instagram, you can find them at Love From Lizi, and that's where the sneak peeks start. And then the products are released on the 19th of the month. If you're a subscriber to the kit, then you go ahead and pay for 2 kits up front plus both sets of shipping, and then you are guaranteed 2 kits, and for every month that you pay for in between you just kind of extend your contract on a rolling basis, so you have a kit guaranteed for you each and every month. If you are not a subscriber, then you can't take advantage of the subscriber discount or the free subscriber add-on shipping, but no problem, you can still get your hands on your kits as long as you are pretty quick. They tend to sell out quite fast, and so set an alarm for the 19th if you're interested in getting hold of these, and if you've missed out in the past and you don't want to be disappointed. Okay, so that is everything from me. I'll do a run through of the 10 cards. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for sticking with me until the end. If you have a favourite card, then let me know in the comments. I found it really difficult to pick this month. I really like all of the cards and I had a lot of fun creating. If you are new to my videos or new to this channel, then at the end of the video there will be a logo on screen. You can go ahead and tap the logo to subscribe to the channel that you're watching, and you can find more from me in the links in the description below. As mentioned, the products used are linked in the description, so do check those out if you're interested in anything. I do use affiliate links where possible, so if you use those, I will earn a small commission at no extra cost to you whatsoever where I have an affiliate relationship set up with that particular company. I don't always, but if I have one, I will use that particular link, and if you click it, I earn a small commission which helps fund the purchasing of craft supplies so I can bring you more videos. Okay, so we really are at the end of the video now. This is the very last card. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope to see you back here again soon for another card making video. That is all from me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.